I don't have split personality disorder. We are going to invite 3 other people on stage in a second. But briefly before then, I want to just give a brief interlude as to why we're actually doing this panel. Obviously, GTA 6 comes out this year, but I run a business called Small World. We're a creator-powered creative agency that is obsessed with making brands more entertaining, so we love everything entertainment. We released a report this year called Entertain or Die with our partner Tracksuit, data partner Tracksuit, and we've actually done a special edition of this report this year that looks specifically at gaming brands and gaming franchises. So we took 12 to 13 of the biggest gaming franchises. They had to have sold over 100 million copies cumulatively and have an active Reddit community of over 1.5 million people to be considered for this index. And we asked people a whole set of different questions, which when you get the full report from my lovely QR code at the end, you'll be able to see. But we asked them questions like, is this a game world that I want to spend time in outside of the game? Is this a game world that shocks and entertains me and grabs my attention? And the results were pretty interesting. I mean, you can see, you might not be able to see totally here, but I'll walk you through a bit of it. Populist games like Super Mario and Pokemon ended up on top. And games that are quite divisive, I guess you could say, like Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty or Diablo, that maybe had some darker themes, ended up closer towards the bottom of the entertainment index, which we do tend to see with brands as well. But when we actually looked at ranking these brands based on awareness, so how ubiquitous these brands were, I guess you could say, or how ubiquitous these gaming properties were, you start to see that games like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto started to come back to the fore. So they are truly, I guess, infamous, I guess you could say, and that's what we're here to explore today. Like, why are these gaming franchises and why is GTA in particular I guess, such a ubiquitous cultural property. And we're going to hear that from 3 different perspectives today. I'd love to introduce to the stage with me Brian Baglow, CEO of Scottish Games Network. Give him a round of applause. Love that. Esther Wright, Lecturer of Digital History at Cardiff University. And last but certainly not least, Sam Crane, actor, director, creator, and the creator of Grand Theft Hamlet. And as I said, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to the full Entertain or Die research, and then you'll also get an email with the full gaming index research, which comes out in the next few weeks, essentially. Right. Cool. So we've got 3 different perspectives here, who all are, experts in their own right in the property that is, I guess, Grand Theft Auto and Rockstar more generally as well. But I'd love to start with you, Brian, specifically. For those of you who don't know, Brian was the original writer of the first ever GTA, and then went into kind of the PR and marketing of the game later down the line. So he has an intimate knowledge basically of how the game started and what they were trying to do, I suppose, from the beginning, and then the consequent madness that happened after that fact. So I guess if you could paint the picture of the person with the most insider knowledge within Rockstar here, or DMA as it was then, take away. What were you trying to attempt to do when you were first coming up with the initial GTA?
I should say, for the record, I am pre-NDA with Rockstar, so strap yourselves in, folks. This could get litigious. So I worked at the original DMA design. I originally applied as a programmer. My programming is at best mediocre. So I was rightly turned down. And so I sent in a CV, which was at least an inch thick, with the most outrageous lies and claims. I discovered Argon as I wrote the X-Files. I recorded the original Nevermind. Wasn't Kurt. And it scared them enough that they actually offered me a job as a writer and made me the writer for this unloved little top-down driving game where you played a policeman and you were trying to clean up the city. And it sucked. It was unplayable, it was broken, and nobody liked it, nobody wanted to work on it. And it took about 6 months from me joining to have team meetings, design meetings, arguments, fist fights, drunken nights out, and somebody suggested, wasn't me unfortunately, why don't you play the bad guy? And we changed the name from Race and Chase to Grand Theft Auto. And to answer your question, finally, Dan, none of us had made a game before. I think we had one artist who had worked on a game previously. So we had no idea what the game was supposed to be. And there was nothing to measure it against. You know, there were no other games that we could look at and go, that's what we need. If you're making FIFA, you know how football works, you know what a stadium looks like, you know the rules. We had no such thing. So it took 3.5, 4 years of experimenting and asking one question at the end, which is it fun yet? And until maybe the last 3 or 4 months, it wasn't fun. So this whole Rockstar Grand Theft Auto thing caught us all by surprise.
And you touched on it there, but originally it was meant to be a policeman, then turned to, you know, a criminal effectively. What do you think it is about playing the outlaw versus the hero that made the game so, I guess, secretly compelling, even if people don't want to admit it? I think it goes back to our graphs, right, of the populist games that everybody likes to say in a survey that entertain them, but actually they're more aware of, you know, the infamous ones like GTA. What is it about being the outlaw that was compelling?
It meant you could play however you wished. You know, you could zoom around the city, pick up missions, not pick up missions. You could steal cars, shoot policemen, just drive around and run over a line of Hare Krishnas. Why not? That was my idea, by the way. It's very hard to get sued by an ideology, but it's a living, breathing city. We used that from the very first time we talked publicly about the game. It's as you drove around, the city reacted to you. It made you feel like you mattered. And that was incredibly rare at that point. And the more you put into the game, the more it gave you back. So this is why it broke every kind of rule of games at the time. Because after it came out, it just kept selling and selling and selling. You know, it didn't have the usual 3-month shelf life. It sold for about 1.5 years. And it was because people were playing it and going, oh my God, could I do this? Yes, I can. And then telling their friends. And it really encouraged that kind of investigation and exploration in a way that I don't think any other game at the time really had.
And I guess you touched on there, sales is obviously a good metric to know if something's taking off in culture, but you know, there's plenty of things that make a lot of money that aren't necessarily ubiquitous in culture. I point to a film like Avatar, for instance, which you never really think has a fandom, but is such a massive film. With GTA in particular, like what was it? What signals were there that you started to pick up on that? Wow, this thing actually is more than just a one-hit wonder game. Like, this is a franchise. This is a world that people want to constantly come back to. They want to play with.
So I guess the very first sign was that before we had finished, I went into another team's room at lunchtime and they were playing GTA. And I went, oh, maybe this thing has some kind of future. But I was doing all the PR and marketing after the game came out. And about 6 or 7 months in, we started to get, this was 1998, remember, so the internet was very young. Started to get emails from people going, I'm setting up a GeoCities and I'm setting up a website about Grand Theft Auto because I'm such a fan. Can you send me some materials? And so I would send them the texture packs, I would send them, you know, the vehicles, all of the various bits and pieces. And literally within 6 weeks, people started getting in touch going, I'm writing my own tool to make Grand Theft Auto 2. And I went, what? And it was pre-Rockstar. BMG Interactive's lawyers went, what? But I'm not saying we were single-handedly responsible, but the user-generated content market was there, and nobody saw that coming. And that was the point where we started talking about GTA 2 way more seriously.
Amazing. So Brian's obviously the inside man, I guess you could say, on this panel. I think now I'd like to shift to speaking to Esther, who you could say, I suppose, is the not the outsider's perspective, more the academic perspective on Rockstar Games and GTA as a whole. Esther has actually written a whole book on this, which I've read cover to cover, Rockstar Games and American History, which I implore everyone to go and look up.
Seconded.
Thirded?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that book more generally is about Rockstar Games and all of the stories that they create, from, you know, Red Dead Redemption to Grand Theft Auto and a couple of the other ones in between. But Esther kind of coined this concept within the book of the developer historian, and I wondered if you could start by letting us know what a developer historian is and why Rockstar Games, through the games of GTA specifically, are probably the pinnacle of developer historian.
Yeah, I mean, like, the idea of the developer historian is essentially to kind of take seriously the idea that video games can show us history. They can communicate historical arguments to us. So when we think about what a historian does, a historian kind of looks for evidence, looks for sources, interprets that, makes an argument about what they think people or a place was like at a particular point in time in the past. what that means for game developer brands like Rockstar is what is their interpretation? Like, what is their vision that they are giving you of a particular place and time? For the vast majority of Rockstar's games, obviously for GTA, this is like the American urban experience. And for them, the evidence that they use is pretty much what does popular culture, what do people already like expect of these places and times? So their history, the kind of way that they present the past and the present, these worlds that are locked to a very specific place and time in the United States. It's, well, what do people already know about this and where are they getting that from? It's shot through with film and television and music and politics and culture and all of these wider influences. So it's about really sort of like understanding what are these games, why you're playing them, why you're engaging with them, what are they telling us about this world, and why do people want to be there in the first place?
Yeah, and I guess, again, you touched on it slightly there, but they have many of these points in time. GTA 5 obviously was the most successful of those. You know, we actually had it up on the index again, like Red Dead Redemption actually scores really high as a franchise from entertainment stakes, and we were actually discussing back and forth, why is it anomalous in that instance versus something like GTA or Call of Duty or Diablo, etc., because it also has quite divisive themes. And I think the thing that we kind of cottoned on to, things interesting, is like, Red Dead actually arguably is a bit of a cozy game. You can play it like a cozy game because you can escape to a bygone era, I suppose. Whereas GTA is kind of real life, effectively. Like you're not escaping to anywhere. Like it is kind of a pocket version of our existence.
Yeah. It's a history that's kind of removed as well, right? Like you wouldn't have Red Dead Redemption if there wasn't like a Western genre of popular culture. Like this is Rockstar's kind of MO. It's like what are the genres and how can we play within and inside of those things, right? But I think this kind of safe distance of it being kind of turn the 20th century, it being kind of Wild West, it has that sort of remove that makes it feel a little bit separate to, you know, it's still critical, it's still kind of satirical in its ways, but GTA is a lot more kind of in your face about the right now, because it's so immediate to us. Yeah,
and is there anything you think specifically about GTA 5 that made that the most popular zenith of the model? Because obviously you had GTA 1, 2, 3, 4, was it just cumulative kind of, you know,
yeah, I mean, I think it's probably cumulative at that point. There's a particular kind of like marrying up of the technology and the expansiveness of that world. It kind of draws on and takes like everything that they had kind of perfected as like the Rockstar formula, right? And that started with what happened at DMA. Like that started with GTA, when you can see all of like the seeding of these kind of pop cultural influences, these kind of like these in-jokes, this satire, that all started there. I think it was just sort of almost like right place, right time, like having that particular kind of console technology to create this sort of vast and expansive world. We can't deny the importance of Grand Theft Auto Online as well, and the way that that has just perpetuated the success of these games. And like by putting players in it and seeing what they will do, like that is the thing that continues to make money for Rockstar 13 years later, right? Because people wanted to live in this world.
Totally, and it's a good point. GTA Online is, we'll come on to Sam in a bit, but like the advent of GTA Online attached to GTA 5, which is something people were asking for years and years and years, that then allowed you to really expand this, you know, previously solitary world, I guess, is definitely
I have an interesting stat.
Go ahead.
So I was talking to politicians in Scotland, and I had a slide because I wanted them to care about video games, and I put up a picture of Los Santos, untitled, and said, does anyone know where this is? And everyone's like, Hollywood? Because there's the Hollywood sign. And I went, nope, Los Santos, population 33.8 million, which makes it slightly bigger than Delhi, slightly smaller than Jakarta, and it was built in Scotland. Could have heard a pin drop.
Fantastic statistic. I guess one of the things that we talked about as well backstage was just like scarcity as well. When we you know, I think Grand Theft Auto as a franchise is one of the few games franchises where, contrary to, you know, FIFA, for instance, that comes out every single year, like these games only come out every 5-6 decade exactly. So the implied scarcity of them make them such a kind of event. Was that always sort of the logic behind it?
No.
Right,
we didn't know what we were doing. If you're building an entire world where you can stand on top of a mountain and go, I wonder if I can go there, and you not only can go there, but you can go there in a Ferrari, a helicopter, or ski, that takes a lot of making, you know, and just making sure that all hangs together is incredibly complex. And then building on top of that all of the lore, all of the characters, all of the NPCs, is astonishing. I'm not surprised that it's projected to have cost more than $2 billion and taken, what we had, 2013, 13 years. It's possibly the most complex piece of software ever created.
But it's the expectation as well, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, how do you follow GTA 5? Like, and this is the kind of, I know we'll probably possibly come on to GTA 6, but like, how do you follow something that has been that successful? The expectations are just so impossibly high for Rockstar and
Yeah.
for this game. It's, hard to think of how you top that.
It's the too big to fail syndrome.
I guess that's a nice segue into the following question, which is, again, from a historical perspective, perhaps GTA 6 is coming out. How do you feel that what is the snapshot of time, I suppose, that they're going to take a kind of screenshot? I was talking to a creative at our agency just before we came down here, and he said, I was a bit disappointed with the trailer. I hope they don't just really lean into kind of creator economy and like influencer culture, and it becomes, lots of older men basically commenting on what they think youth culture is today. So I guess what do you think the snapshot, without knowing, with a crystal ball up, sorry. Crystal, wait, you were as old as you were then, you were young when you were writing it.
Yeah.
What is the snapshot in time do you feel like the developer historian is now trying to catch a picture of? And do you feel like it will hit in the same way because of the parody of the outside world that we live in?
I mean, what a decade to be trying to parody between, between 2013 and now, right? Like, what possible thing? I mean, like, just the expanse of things that have happened in the last, 4 to 5 years, right? And also thinking about, this is a game that has to kind of be made and finished at some point. How can you constantly keep up with just all the shit that's been happening, right? I don't know. They will have had to have chosen, okay, this is our moment, this is the thing, this is the key theme. I think what's interesting in terms of the single player story mode of GTA 5 is having it centered around Michael as this kind of aging outlaw. It was very much in the vein of The Sopranos at this point of what is the American dream? What is it for this kind of aging sort of ex-outlaw? That worked really well because it did almost have that kind of, he's the old guy and he's seeing the up and coming in Franklin and the kind of contrast between old and new. It'll be interesting to see, with two characters that are kind of quite young, this almost like Bonnie and Clyde dynamic, whatever that ends up being in the game. What is it specifically that they, as those main characters, will allow them to capture about this world and everything that's happened since 2013?
Great point. Interesting segue on the thing that you said there about the speed with which culture moves today and how everything becomes memified quite instantly, which jars with the length of time it takes to develop a game. 007 First Light just came out, and there's I saw a kind of picture online that they have Kaby Lame, the now massive influencer, doing his kind of signature pose, but he has, for all intents and purposes, kind of phased out of influencer culture a little bit. But that was obviously something they put into the game years ago when they were like, this Kaby Lame guy's quite relevant, let's put him in. So I'm sure we'll see a few versions of that coming up. Okay, we'd love to shift to the creator perspective now, seeing as this is the creator track. And as we said, GTA 5, one of the things that made it so popular, I'd say, was the online mode that came into it. There was a whole bunch of new ways that you could play the game, I suppose, and play it with other people and create in ways that Rockstar never kind of thought possible, I suppose. And I think the most quintessential example of that is Sam and what he did over lockdown. For those of you who haven't seen, Sam effectively recreated Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto within the world of the game. But the film that he put together, which you can go and watch on Movie, I highly recommend that you go and see it if you haven't. It was much more of kind of a recollection of kind of humanity during lockdown and telling the behind the scenes story of making Hamlet in the game rather than just Hamlet. So honestly, truly unique piece of filmmaking, I would say, for those of you who haven't seen it. But I guess I'd love to know from you, Sam, of course, where the inkling of the idea came from, which again is in the film if you haven't seen it, but why you settled on GTA as the perfect sandbox to make Hamlet possible.
Well, I think there's a few reasons. First, practically, as you were saying, Brian, it's a world. It's really hard to make a good online space that works really well, and that is the one that does, probably because it's been around so long. I think when it first came out, it was janky as fuck, and no one knew what was going on, and it was impossible. And I think the kind of magic of it came out as just a kind of little extra. You didn't buy GTA 5 for online in 2013,
No.
but it was a little extra that didn't work very well. And gradually they kept doing updates, kept fixing it, kept making it work until, it works incredibly well. So there's that. Just practically, I've played a lot of other online games, and there's, like Minecraft is also pretty good, but that's a very different aesthetic. And also you couldn't, like there was someone who did, like a Russian theatre company did, I think it was the Cherry Orchard in Minecraft, but I've not seen it. But anyway, there's also like the incredible beauty of the game. Like anyone who plays it for the first time, I think you're just struck dumb by how beautiful it is, and then how chaotically brutal it is as well. And that mix is like so Hamlet, right? That's how Hamlet sees the world. Like he's got his famous speech, I have of late, but wherefore I know not, lost all my mirth, forgone all custom of exercise. And indeed it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame the earth seems to me a sterile promontory, this most excellent canopy, the air, look you, this majestical roof fretted with golden fire, why it appears nothing to me but a foul and pestilent congregation of vapours. And I had this experience playing GTA Online, seeing this...
Yeah, we've just got to pause for a second.
Okay.
Off the dome.
But seeing this, like, incredibly beautifully realised digital sunset over Los Santos, and just thinking, this is a majestical roof fretted with golden fire, and then someone comes around and blows up my helicopter with an RPG, and it's, it turns into this absolute chaos and brute, and that's how Hamlet sees the world, this duality. So it seemed like perfectly expressed. And there's another thing as well that I think its cultural position, GTA, that we've been talking about, it's such a heavy cultural presence, and its relationship to reality, I think, is really interesting. So I read there's a very interesting interview with Aaron Garbutt, who was the I can't remember
Art director,
yeah, talking about how of course, they did loads of incredibly deep research into it and loads of videos and pictures, but they wanted to create a world, the America that's represented in culture, right? Through gangster films, through music videos, and that's what you see. And it's the same with Hamlet. Shakespeare wasn't kind of creating a perfectly real version of medieval Denmark, because he couldn't. But he was really aware of this story. There was potentially, we don't know, but probably other versions of Hamlet that he might have seen. There was Belforest's Histoire Tragique, where it had the story in Gesta Danorum. There were these versions of the story that existed that Shakespeare would have known about and his audience would have known about. And so what you see in Hamlet is this kind of cultural presence of medieval Denmark that is filtered through these very strong cultural depictions they would have all known about. And that's the same with GTA 5, GTA Online's version of Los Angeles. That's what, it's not the real thing. It kind of almost looks exactly like the real thing, but it's how it exists in the culture. So that, again, it seemed like this perfect kind of matchup between Hamlet and GTA.
And you talked about Hamlet specifically there, but I think, again, as we said, we've seen tons of, they're called RP creators, role play creators, through YouTube, who've kind of exploded that concept into loads of other different worlds. What do you think it is about the sandbox of GTA that makes it broadly an amazing space for creating? Because again, you could have gone into other game worlds like Fortnite that now exists, or Roblox, or Minecraft, but you just don't see, from what I've seen at least, I haven't seen a Macbeth in Minecraft yet.
For me, it's like, I mean, I'm specifically talking about a creator like from a theatrical background, right? And for me, it's the chaos of it. You go in there, you start playing, and it's so fucking dramatic because you don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. And it's like, for me, and that's what makes good. Most theatre is probably really boring. Like, you kind of watch it and you kind of think, oh yes, I'm supposed to be, it's so wonderful and brilliant, and but the best stuff is when you see it and you think, anything could happen here, and that's the feeling you get in GTA Online. So I think it's just inherently that chaos. It's really interesting. So when I very first started doing it and thinking about doing this work, I was thinking, okay, well, there's no way we could do a production. I'm going to have to kind of go in a private server, calm everything down so I don't get interrupted all the time. And we started doing a bit of that, and it was just like, yeah, interesting, but basically quite boring. And I watched this art film by a couple called Eva and Franco Matters. It was actually made in Counter-Strike in early 2000s called Freedom. And they're basically going around in this server basically saying, please don't shoot us, we're trying to make this art piece. And everyone goes, oh, fuck off, Picasso, and shoots. And it was amazing, and it was really funny. And if that for seeing that, I was like, okay, right, I've got to embrace the chaos and really live with it. And that's what's going to make this dramatic and exciting. So that's what we did. And you can see that in the film Grand Theft Hamlet, when me and Mark first try to do the opening of Hamlet in the Vinewood Bowl. And we put the call out to people in the server saying, look, does anyone want to come and watch us? We're in the Vinewood Bowl. And a couple of people turned up, and then they started shooting each other, shooting us. The police turned up, absolute chaos and carnage, but it was so fun and so exciting. And dare I say it, I think pretty Shakespearean. Yeah.
Indeed it is. Again, I implore you to go and watch it if you haven't tonight. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to do kind of a quick fire, similar type question to each of you, but just kind of like a 1-sentence, 2-sentence answer to that. Brian, I guess I want to start with you. All of these will be framed in the context of GTA 6 coming out. Put me inside the mind of the game developer writer with GTA 6 coming out right now. What do you think they're feeling with the game about to come out, and do you feel that they're anxious about the expectation?
Of course.
Of the game.
They're going, this is the biggest thing of my life. If I fuck this up, then I'm definitely dead. I haven't seen my family in 6 months. I wish they would remove these chains and let me away from my desk. All of those things. No, in all seriousness, so much of what was delivered in the first game was implied. There were no real characters. The pedestrians looked like little blobs. And all I had to work with was a pager that had 120 characters. So, not even Twitter level of dialogue. And so we had to imply everything. And the reason that it parodied everything was I just stole from every crime caper, every heist movie, every Sopranos episode that I could possibly think of, and tried to sort of find these cultural tropes people realised. Whereas now you have an entire world, and you have characters, not just the main characters, NPCs and missions. It's enormously complex. And there's no format for this. You don't write a game like you write a screenplay. I'm famously on record as saying you cannot start a stage, a play, you cannot start a film or a TV show without a script. You can absolutely fucking finish a game without one. Not in this case. They're going to be putting everything on the line for this. This has to be perfect.
Okay. Esther, from a historical perspective, what are you, I guess, hoping to see most when GTA 6 comes out? What snapshot are you hoping that they capture best?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just very openly curious about what kind of America this game is going to show. With everything that has happened across the pond in the last 10 years, I'm really, really keen to see, genuinely open. I have no expectations. I want to know what they think this is the kind of the crystallized version of America that we've tried to capture through this game, and what that's going to, allow players to see and do in this world.
And then Sam, finally, from the creator's perspective, I guess, what, any other ideas up your sleeve? And then also, what, I guess, are you, what do you think you're going to see from an inspiration perspective from GTA 6? How will it differ to GTA 5?
The big thing for me, which I don't know if there's been rumours about it or not, what online is going to be like. Is there going to be presumably a whole new online set in, in this version of Miami, or will it go to? I have some rumors that maybe there's going to be all different worlds that you can maybe join up with Los Santos or something. I don't know, but so that's the big one for me. What online is going to look like and how that's going to work. I hope that there's space in there allowed in the development for people to do kind of cool, weird shit basically.
More weird shit.
Yeah.
Always more weird shit.
There'll be plenty of cool, weird shit. Okay, we're pretty much bang on time. I hope you've really enjoyed that and been entertained first and foremost, and enjoy the rest of your day.